in their reactions. I'm not going to justify that. The Prophet Muhammad never, ever attacked any ambassador. In fact, when a false prophet sent his ambassadors, he actually honored them and sent them back. He never denigrated ambassadors. In the ancient world, it was a declaration of war to kill an ambassador. This is a wretched thing that happened. But a small minority of people, and let me remind you that there were Libyans who died defending that embassy, trying to keep the Americans safe. And they are recorded. There are recordings of them saying, "Khallu, khush al-Amerikan dakhil, khush al-Amerikan dakhil, ahmuhum." Protect them. Make sure they're inside. And they lost their lives. And they would see that as a martyrdom in their faith. Just like Amir Abdul Qadir al-Jazairi defended the Christians and the French legation in Syria against the riots in which they were attacking Christians. He went out and defended them. The French sang his praises, even though they had conquered his country and driven him out of his own country. He defended them in Damascus. He was honored in this country. Kadar, Ohio Iowa is named after him because he was honored as a noble human being. This is our prophet. This is how we see our prophet. Now, I would argue that there is an element. I called this years ago. I gave a talk at the Globe Theater about Othello. It was after 9/11. And I argued that Othello, Iago, Santiago Matamoros was the patron saint that drove out the Moors from Spain. And so Shakespeare called this character Iago, right? The Spanish advisor to Othel, the Moor. And there's an argument that Iago was actually represented a certain voice inside England that wanted to prevent an alliance with Queen Elizabeth and the Moroccans against the Spanish, because Mansur al-Dhahabi had argued for that alliance. We have Iagos working on both sides, whispering, trying to get us to kill each other, to strangle the Desdemona of hope. I mean, this is what's going on, and we have to be very careful about that. I want to argue that when the First Amendment, which is such a beautiful testimony to the ideals of this country, when that was enacted, we tend to forget there were dueling laws in the United States of America. The dueling laws were actually a caveat to make sure that you did not use freedom of speech to abuse other people. You could actually demand satisfaction. We have one of our founding fathers was killed in a duel because his honor was disparaged. Honor is something real. People hold to honor. I'm actually a Kentucky colonel, right? And in Kentucky, if you're sworn in to a state public service, you have to swear that you've never been in a duel, because Kentucky was the last state to outlaw dueling. Now, in place of dueling, they brought in defamation laws to prevent defamation of character. Unfortunately, during the Warren Court, they had Sullivan versus the New York Times to remove defamation from public officials and public characters. So my wife is protected under the defamation laws, but I'm not. It's not equal. I don't think it's fair. You can't mess with my wife, you can mess with me. It's not fair. She does it all the time. But I want to say honor is an important thing. And anthropologists sometimes divide societies into honor societies and into law societies. Honor is sometimes in place of law. When you don't have a strong legal system, honor becomes the way that people redress problems. That's why in the ghettos, often where you have a type of lawlessness, there's codes of honor, right? You don't step on people's toes because there's consequences to doing that. You don't diss their mothers. You don't diss their fathers, right? Because there are consequences to that, right? You talking to me? You talking to me? You must be talking to me. I don't see anybody else here. You talking to me? Right? That's how it works in the hood. That's how it works in the hood. Right? So it's very important for us to really think deeply about these things and the harm that these things cause, right? And finally, I want to say that if this country would only apply the advice of the United States Army from 1943, we could end all of the problems, all right? So I want to read from Instructions for American Servicemen. This was during the Iraq, when they were in Iraq in 1943, okay? Page 12. No preaching. This isn't preaching. You probably belong to a church at home, and you know how you would feel towards anyone who insulted or desecrated your church. The Muslims feel just the same way, perhaps even more strongly. In fact, their feeling about their religion is pretty much the same as ours toward our religion, although more intense. If anything, we should respect the Muslims, the more for the intensity of their devotion. That's the U.S. government in 1943. I mean, where the hell are they in 2012? Right? If you should see grown men walking hand in hand, ignore it. They are not queer. Be kind and considerate to servants. Iraqis consider all people equals. Avoid any expression of race prejudice. 1943. Avoid any expression of race prejudice. The people draw very little color line. Yeah. So finally, we're living in the age of mockery. One of my favorite poets, Yeats, wrote a poem about this. Come, let us mock at the great that had such burdens on the mind and toiled so hard and late to leave some monument behind, nor thought of the leveling wind. Come, let us mock at the wise with all those calendars whereon they fixed old aching eyes. They never saw how seasons run and now but gape at the sun. Come, let us mock at the good that fancied goodness might be gay and sick of solitude might proclaim a holiday. Mock mockers after that would not lift a hand maybe to help good, wise, or great to bar that foul storm out, for we traffic in mockery.